WCB, DDD, BBL, and the other BBL are all slowly on their way out. My first 4 ever draft leagues all simultaneously ending around the same time. What a ride it's been, first 3 months. Now I need more. I need more draft leagues to play, and I need to assert myself as a big handsome man to quench my thirst for Pokemon. And thankfully in the discussion with the Rage 77 about the biggest draft leagues, he mentioned EDC. So I'm like, sure, why not join? And perfectly, they were accepting signups for oncoming leagues. However, when I checked the application, the formats available were weird. They went along the lines of reduce Wi-Fi standard something and reduce national dex. What the fuck does reduce mean in this context? Turns out, it's like a cross between standard format and lower tier. The top Pokemon changed from Iron Valiant and Great Tusk to Hisuian Samurai levels of Pokemon. This has a lot of effects on the available mods. A big one being that the speed tiers of Iron Valiant, Meowscarada, Greninja, and sometimes Dragapult, they're gone. And those are like some of the most important speed tiers in draft, normally. The Cope speed tiers, like Talonflame speed tiers, oops, Talonflame and Kilowatt will also become more viable now. Speed as a whole becomes kind of wonky and on average lower. Another big change is the lack of Great Tusk and Terapagos. 16-player Paldea decks is already a struggle for removal, and now the best 2 options are gone. And Cinderace is gone too. Removal sucks! I signed up for the Wi-Fi division called Ignite because Wi-Fi is cool. Last season we had familiar faces like DJS and A12 playing apparently, but this season we have even more familiar faces. We have our PWC friends Final Gambit Shedinja and Maki, 2 draft YouTubers Ellie and Gravy, which you guys might recognize, and a man who made a set that I am quite the fan of, Dashing Sceptile and the defense curling Pecharunt. The first pick was tough as I had never played in a format like reduced standard Paldea decks. I was thinking about Iron Hands, but whenever my first pick is slow, I tend to struggle a lot. So I decided to ask Fierce Flamethrower and Musa Sensei for advice, and both of them gave the same answer: Landorus. I'm not a fan of using Landorus, but I fully understand why. A high tier ground is always a priority, and in lower tier, the grounds are freaking doo-doo. There's no Great Tusk or King Boo. I might also be able to change my opinion on Landorus by using it. Maybe I'll like it more. Who knows? Musa also gave me a small plan for the next few picks, so for fun I decided to name my Landorus after Musa. But I also got pretty lucky with the next Pokemon anyways. Initially, we wanted Ogremon Heartflame because I have a lot of experience with it, but a slightly better version came our way. Ogremon Cornerstone is back in these sweaty little palms. Whenever I have this Pokemon, it essentially means I always have a chance of winning, because this Pokemon is kind of crazy. It brought me to finals in the Blitz Battlers League, and at the time of writing this, we're still in the finals. I'm going to battle in a couple hours at the time I'm voicing this. We might win. It's also just a Pokemon I have a ton of experience with, and when my first Pokemon is Landorus, I value experience. From here, I really want a Primarina. Really badly. Because I haven't had a chance to use it, and it's very fun outside of draft. Helping my friends mock using Primarina, that's a fun experience. Plus, I heavily valued a good fairy similarly to ground. Not as crucially, but I still really need a fairy type. Unfortunately, Primarina got taken round 2, which is diabolically early, might I say. And my backup in Iron Crown was also gone. No, Iron Crown makes sense. Primarina, no. What the hell, man? Because of this, I had to scan the matches to see whether Metagross or Scizor matched up better. And while I would always like priority, the weaker Bullet Punch was just fine by me. I hadn't used Metagross yet and was hesitant at first because I wasn't sure if I'd like it. Because in high tier standard Paldea decks, Metagross I usually just bring as like a bulky Pokemon to take a hit and hit back, and maybe set Stealth Rock up. But here, when I looked at the matchups, I noticed I can click a lot of buttons with this Pokemon. I hit really hard. 135 is very good attack. And it also gives me a second Stealth Rocker, which I always prioritize, and Knockoff, which I like, especially because Landorus doesn't have Knockoff anymore. The next Pokemon was very much clear for me. There is no debate as to whether this was the right play or not. The type overlap of a potential candidate for the team in Overquill was annoying, but I use Overquill enough that I don't have to use Overquill in this league anymore. And as I said earlier, hazard removal is an actual bitch in this format, so Tentacruel is the very obvious next Pokemon. It's funny because around the same time I picked up Tentacruel in the Spring Seasonal, so in 2 very important draft leagues, I'm going to be using one of my favorite Pokemon since I was a little baby, a little child. This Pokemon can give me a lot. Rapid Spin, another Fairy Resist, a Special Tank, Pivot, Knockoff, Toxic, Grounded Poison, Pretty Face Meteor. It just works, and it's not a question as to whether it was the right choice. Tentacruel is a very obvious pick. And I have the second best hazard removal in the format right now, unless you count Glamora's Mortal Spin, which honestly I don't think it's good. The next Pokemon I wanted either Sylveon or Florges, but both Pokemon got sniped. So I looked for other options. People were starting to get their Terra Captains, and I had no clue what to get. Fierce Flamethrower is just an Infernape, but I can't lie, I think there's some bias sprinkled into that opinion. Crepuscule got Mamoswine, Hush got Haxorus, Ellie got Sinistra. What the fuck am I gonna get? Those are demons! It's hard because I don't know how much better some Pokemon get in lower tier. For example, I looked at Galarian Moltres a lot, and in normal Paldea decks, it's a solid but not amazing Terra Captain, and generally a mediocre Dark type. How much better does it get in this format? Does it get much better? Does it become a demon? Is it incredible? I don't know. I can use points to kind of tell, like Galarian Moltres is 13 points. But honestly, that doesn't tell me much. Like, 13 points, but is it a good 13-pointer? I don't know. So I narrowed down the captain options and sat down to think of which one would be the most fun, because let's be honest, my team isn't very cool right now. We need more content, and after doing some calcs, I got peak content ready. Noivern. Alright, let's go into the damage calculator. We basically dropped a fast X-Cloud because I can terrestrialize this Pokemon. Also, remember what I said about the Coke Speakers being better in this format? Noivern's one of those, and I've always wanted to use Noivern because it's a very cool Pokemon. So it's about time. If there's a league I'm going to use Noivern where it's actually not dog shit, it's going to be this one. This one, it's the opposite of dog shit. And the next Pokemon's going to add to the fun. I had to ask quite a few people whether this Pokemon or Terra Heracross would be cooler. And while Terra Heracross sounds real fun, Terra Conkeldurr seems even more brutal to deal with. I always think priority is undervalued in draft, and Conkeldurr has potentially the strongest priority in the entire format. Facade is also a complete nuke. I can terrestrialize this Pokemon, and the dude is Defog. For whatever reason, am I gonna click Defog? I don't know. Am I gonna even run Defog? Who cares? I want 4 attacks every week, because it's cooler. At this point, I need a few things. I lack the Fairy type, I lack Spikes, I lack a Dark type. At this point, I didn't really have a choice. The next Pokemon was pretty obvious for my team. Even though I already said I wasn't really going to use it, welcome back our best friend Overquill. My favorite Pokemon to use in Draft League alongside Thundurus Therian. This gave me 2 of the 3 things I was sorely missing, aside from another which I'll get into right now. The speed gap between Ogerpon Cornerstone and Landorus Therian. You may think Tentacruel works, but rarely am I going to be running a fast Tentacruel. I mean, honestly, I kind of intend to, but it's still kind of a fake speed tier, so I need a way to force Pokemon like Infernape and Walking Wake to run speed boosting natures. I cannot afford to face Modest Walking Wake. Fuck that. Although it probably wants to speed boost against me, but maybe it doesn't, we'll see. There's a Walking Wake out there, I'm very scared of it. And I settled on picking up Mimikyu. It gave me a pretty mid-fairy type, but the right speed tier. And Disguise meant that people's terrifying Terra Captors were not going to automatically destroy me. Unfortunately, Mimikyu got sniped. Even though it's mid, I can't even get mid. And so was Whimsicott, which was kind of my backup, which was also the last real fairy on the board besides Klefki. And I am not getting Klefki again. At the time of writing this, I'm very unsure of what to get, but I've already locked in my next pick. I noticed a huge lack of ghost resistance out there, so I wanted to get one of Cerulege or Chandelure. Cerulege was better against specific teams, but Chandelure was better overall due to giving me a special attacker, and was even cheaper to boot. A mildly helpful speed tier, and I even have some clicks up my sleeve with this Pokemon planned for later. God, I hate being a brony. I value patching up the terrifying speed gap I mentioned earlier, but instead of Mimikyu, I will be using Indeedee Male. Apparently, Expanding Force hits quite a bit harder than I realized. So I decided, why not just lean into breaking and use it? It also means Pokemon like Scizor or King Gambit can revenge kill Ogerpon Cornerstone specifically, and also means that I may not have to run Spiky Shield for first impression, so the synergy is beautiful. It does mean I can't use my own priority from Metagross or Conkeldurr under Psychic Terrain, but that just requires good positioning. I'd be pretty bad to allow a situation where that happens, right? Right. The team was heavily lacking defense at the moment. There were some cool Pokemon like Uxie and Deoxys defense, but they weren't exactly bulky or longevity focused enough for me. I needed a long-lasting wall that could consistently help me answer the threats on both defensive spectrums, so I aimed to get my favorite Pokemon, Cresselia, next. Because that does a good job, and also gives me Thunder Wave, which at the moment I don't think I actually have a lot of Thunder Wave. So that's enough scripting for today. See you tomorrow!
You better believe I got tricks up my sleeve.
Cresselia got sniped! We'll get you next time. Well, what's the backup for Cresselia? Now that that's gone, I could take Reuniclus, I could take Gastrodon, and while those look cool, I decided to take Gardevoir. I know, I said I need a fairy type, why wouldn't you get Gardevoir anyways? Well, that's because Gardevoir is kind of a fake fairy. I'm not switching into Haxorus, what the fuck do you mean? But I was still missing a fairy, and it really isn't the best fairy defensively, but it's incredibly offensive. It's very strong, and I have the coverage for the resist, so as an offensive fairy, I'll gladly take Gardevoir. I would have rather had Cresselia though, but I'll gladly use Gardevoir. It's just, I wanted a chance to use my favorite Pokemon. And my final pick was Frostlass because I'm just going to be transparent with you guys. Overqwil does not look as good as I wish. So, spikes in these matchups, I think Frostlass is going to be a better spiker. I don't really need the 110 speed tier, but I do appreciate Frostlass having spikes instead of Overqwil. So, there's my team for EDC. At the time of doing this, it's Grace period. Maybe something will happen in Grace. Who knows? Nothing's gonna happen in Grace, is there? Can I have my Cresselia, please? Boom! Made a change in Grace period. Frostlass didn't even get a proper intro in the editing, and she's already out. Because 1, Ellie wanted Frostlass, and 2, I don't really like using Suicide Leads. I only like Frostlass in Gen 4, there's no other generation. Unbanned Snowcloak, goddammit! So, instead, I'm gonna be using a Pokemon that I really enjoy using, which is just like Tentacruel. It's one of my favorite Pokemon from when I was a kid. I love this design ever since I was a small little boy, and they're actually kind of similar Pokemon. And I get Cloyster. This patches up some very specific terrible matchups, maintains Ice offense, maintains Spikes. The script says gives me another Rapid Spinner, but I did some digging. Cloyster apparently never got Rapid Spin back. So, Rapid Spin, which is actually a kind of annoying. And most obviously though, it gives me a Shell Smash Sweeper. A Shell Smash Sweeper. And with the breakers I have, I think it's time we get a Sweeper that isn't just Ogerpon. Also, even if I never bring Cloyster once, it forces my opponents to take it into account and prep for it with like a bulky water or a mirror earth Pokemon. And forcing that is always useful. It's not like I can take advantage of bulky water as well with my grass type because it doesn't resist water. But forcing that is still useful. I don't care. It's like a Ditto, except I can actually make use of this Ditto. Ditto's actually even more poison than Cloyster. Although I guess that these Ditto forces are much more. Alright, well, Grace still isn't over. I'm gonna go sleep and see what the other guys do. Cresselia got dropped! Cresselia got dropped! They just picked it up and dropped it. It feels like a personal attack, but I don't think it was. We got Cresselia! So, we finally get Cresselia, and we're going back to the original plan. As much as I love Cloyster, I love Cloyster. We might pick it up in a transaction later in the season because I love it so much, but I'm gonna have to say goodbye to Cloyster for now. And I'm also dropping Gardevoir alongside it, so no fairy type, except we're picking up Gramble, except we're not actually picking up Gramble. I found something kind of better than Gramble. I know I need a fairy, but honestly, Gramble sucks. I've used Gramble before. I know it sucks. So instead, we're gonna pick up Wo-Chien. I'm just kidding. While Wo-Chien would have been funny, and I did have it at first, I think the better Pokemon to use here to replace the Ice offense would be Abomasnow. And I'm not gonna do an edit the Abomasnow thing. I've done that too many times. I feel like you guys would be annoyed by it. Maybe my editing is annoying, but not as annoying as Abomasnow. No, Abomasnow's not that annoying, but he's coming on the team anyway because I don't exactly have sweepers. I'm more so wall breakers, but I could still use Aurora Veil. There's a weather team. I hate that. And I want to maintain that Ice offense because I actually really like Ice against quite a few of these teams. And Abomasnow, not the best. It's a little bit too slow for my taste. But I think we can still make use of Abomasnow. I'll gladly take it. Plus, it's fun. And it's also probably like the best 4-pointer there. Probably. Besides Gramble, but I don't want to use Gramble or Regirock. I think Abomasnow's better than Regirock. And there's our team for EDC. I'm pretty sure there's nothing else. The amount of times I have to come in and rewrite the script and re-edit everything is annoying. Here I use the PWC doc for this, so it looks pretty cool. Ignore the kills and stuff. It looks cool, right? And let me know what you think of it. Let me know which one you're excited to see in action. And here's also the nicknames. I feel like I can let you guys have the nicknames. They're all referencing something. It's pretty cool stuff.